Welcome to Roundhouse Roulette, a Walker, Texas Ranger podcast. Each week we recap and review one of the 200 existing Walker, Texas Ranger episodes randomly selected by Roundhouse Roulette. I'm Evan Dalton, here with my brother Adam, and the man who wears the Texas tuxedo almost as well as Chuck Norris, our friend Mr. Bob Leahy. What's new, guys?
Not much, dude.
Hey, man. Got something to show you. Ooh. See that?
Ooh. It's a Walker, Texas Ranger belt buckle. Well, not to be outdone, I have an excellent Texas t-shirt on myself. You'll see that this t-shirt is from Magnolia Farms. That's Chip and Joanna Gaines' place. That's in Central Texas, Waco, Texas.
Ooh, Waco.
Yeah, but hold on. It's getting a little warm in here. I got to take this off.
Oh God! What is he doing? He's taking his shirt off.
I've also got this shirt here that's also from Texas. This is a shirt from a recent road race put on by Chuck Norris's foundation.
Ooh. That's a good look on you.
Yeah, that's really good. That skin tone matches you too. So for those that can't see this, Evan has a shirt that is like a running t-shirt from Chuck Norris's road race.
It's the C-Force 5K.
It literally is like a sleeveless leather shirt unbuttoned to show his chest.
Oh, it's the denim. It's the Texas tuxedo, shirtless. Yeah, the skin tone is really weird. It looks like someone just sort of took a can of orange spray paint and kind of went for it. But
we're gonna have to pop some pictures of this stuff up on the socials
for shizzle.
Needless to say, I've been really digging heavily into the Walker Texas Ranger eBay black hole. So there are a few things in the works that I cannot wait to tell you about, but we'll just leave it at that.
Nice. Well, we'd like to thank you all for joining us as we revisit Chuck Norris's denim-laden, pulse-pounding primetime epic. Today we'll be recapping and reviewing Season 6, Episode 22, Soul of Winter, in which the leader of a white supremacy group seeks vengeance upon the pastor responsible for sending him to prison. But first, join us as we pull up a bar stool at CD's Bar and Grill. Fancy meeting you guys here. What's going on?
Man, I love hanging out here at CD's.
It's a truly magical place.
Definitely, where all the best laid plans are laid bare by Walker and Company.
Yeah, I mean, for a Central Dallas bar, a lot of our beers have been coming from Tennessee, including this week's. This week's CD has served up a Coconut Blonde from Tailgate Brewery in Nashville. As described by the menu, it is a light and refreshing beer with loads of toasted coconut from the nose all the way through the finish. If you even mildly like coconut, you'll love this beer. You guys want to get nuts?
Oh, let's get nuts.
Ooh, there's definitely some coconut to that.
Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite beers from Tailgate. They just this year started canning it.
Yeah, I dig it.
It's a lovely bunch of coconuts. I will say that I was outside today mowing the lawn, and I admitted defeat sort of partway through it because I felt like I was going to pass out. So I came inside and did what most sane people do and whipped up some pina coladas. So
Nice.
I've been doing coconut stuff all day. It's great.
Where'd you get the coconuts?
Yeah, you show up late to the podcast because you were out boozing it up, bro?
That was a while ago.
No, you can't mow the lawn without drinking.
Yeah, come on, man. You got to stay hydrated.
You better been wearing that shirt.
I have to wear long sleeves, but I almost wore this the last time I mowed the lawn. But, yeah, I think I'd fit right in around here.
Props to Tailgate Beer for a tasty Coconut Blonde.
And, this was sort of the last of CD's bar pack, so we're going to have to figure out what's going to be on the upcoming late summer draft menu.
Yeah, he's always changing stuff up, CD.
He's looking for new things and new things to try and change. Yeah,
Most
that sounds
definitely.
like CD.
Yeah, the one constant in his life is his chili recipe, but as far as his craft beer menu, it's always rotating.
Right.
That's very true. Speaking of things that are no longer rotating, it appears that Adam found an interesting, curious object on the internet. It's one of the seedy dark corners of the internet known as Reddit, I believe.
Yeah.
This is the weirdest thing. It is a photograph. I guess we'll put it up on our social if we haven't already. But it's a photograph of someone who's had way too much time on their hands that has carved a coconut into the shape of like a human head. And it's not clear whether they intended for it to look like Chuck Norris or whether someone else found it and said that it was a Chuck Norris coconut carving. But it shares some similarities.
I don't know much about Reddit, but I know how they have different threads about stuff, and this thread is called Mildly Interesting.
Very accurate. I mean, to us, it's extremely interesting. But to the general public, that is very mildly interesting.
Yeah. Somebody, they were saying that actually doesn't really look like him that much. I don't think it looks like him very much. But someone said it looks like Danny Bonaducci from the Partridge Family, and I kind of get that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
The ginger facial hair, right?
Yeah. I mean, at first glance, I thought it was like a mummified skull from ancient Egypt.
Yeah, it looks like...
This would have been a way more interesting crystal skull for the fourth Indiana Jones.
I still have never seen that movie, and I refuse to. We'll never talk about it again.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Wow.
It doesn't exist.
Wow.
We rewatched
Sorry, it's a
it.
sore subject.
It was bad, but it wasn't as bad as I remember it, but it was still bad.
Not going to take a chance.
Yeah, you're not missing much, Bob.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's what I've been told. No one's told me I should see it, and it's been out for, 5-10 years now?
About 10 years.
Yeah,
Over 10 years. But they're coming out with another one, so... we'll see what happens if Harrison Ford survives. But he's managed to pretty much come back and ruin every movie series he's done so far. So
his general MO is do something for a couple decades, become iconic doing it, and then spend the next couple decades talking crap about it, and then coming back to do it again. It's kind of his MO.
Weird. Well, I guess it's time to dig into the mailbag.
Ooh, what do we got this week? You know, it's pretty fun seeing us gain some traction here.
Yeah, I mean...
I'm sure there's tons of stuff coming in.
I can't keep up with all the mail, and if we don't get you, I truly apologize, but we do read every piece of mail that comes in.
That being said, if you want to send us something, please do.
Several messages we've gotten.
Yeah, we've actually gotten several, yes.
Like, more than one.
We'd say countless, but that's a lie.
Yeah, that's
this first piece of mail, which was sent to our roundhouseroulette@gmail.com, is from Molly Blue, who works as an IOM technician at Southern Illinois Healthcare. Interesting.
What does IOM stand for? Is it like Integrated Ion Manuscripts?
It sounds technical.
There are a lot of initials in this name as well. There's RNCS. Well, NCS, I mean, that's like NCIS, right?
Right, same
and then
thing.
there's a T and a period, an R and a period, and E and G. That must be something like Ghostbusters. And like a T and a period and a comma. Then there's the Integrated Ion Management Technician. So
yeah, I think that's probably what it means for sure.
It's an impressive title.
Bob, you want to take this one?
So yeah, Molly says, strong work, guys. I was laughing so hard that I inhaled my morning coffee into the deep cockles of my lungs. You must need to be in healthcare to know what cockles are. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, cockles, that means something else for me. But
Right. I will very likely never watch any of these episodes, but seeing that Jared Padalecki is the new Walker, I'll probably see every episode.
Okay. It's pretty good.
He must have some sort of fan club.
I think so.
Well,
some sort of following, yeah.
Yeah, he's been doing with Supernatural for like 2 decades now. It's crazy.
She then says, you may miss out on potential sponsorship from the CW if you slam them too hard. I'm waiting for your merch line to come out, and I'll be the first to buy VIP tickets to your live show featuring special guests Chuck Norris and Jared Padalecki, which I think we just decided Jared Padalecki's not going to be there because we make fun of him. But we make fun of Chuck Norris too, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough love.
I don't think anyone's going to be there.
It's tough love. But yeah, our last podcast, I think we dug in a little bit on the CW Walker, but I defended it. So
we'll soon find out.
We're going to give it a shot.
Just like I did for Indiana Jones and what the hell is it called? Temple of Skulls or whatever. Tempest of Skulls.
Dude, you do need to watch that now.
No, not going to do it. Nope.
And we need to be there. We need to watch it all together somehow.
We need to watch your childhood die.
Yeah. No, that's exactly why I don't want to watch it.
I actually watched that movie in South America in the theater when it came out. And you know what? It being dubbed in Spanish didn't make it any better.
Wow.
But it didn't make it any worse either.
Yeah, it actually probably gave you the possibility that it was a good movie if you could understand it.
Right. Right.
On Facebook, we got a comment from Adam Christopher, and he asked, are you guys tracking how many episodes are actual assigned cases versus somebody Walker knows or a place he happens to be getting attacked? Seems like being associated with Walker is dangerous.
It definitely is. That's a really great observation.
Yeah.
And certainly something that we have not really been keeping track of very well. But actually, it's pretty relevant for this episode because there is a pivotal moment where it becomes a case.
Yeah. I wrote back that we were initially tracking all the old friends that Walker knows, but they pretty much use that plot device in every episode, so it's kind of pointless to track.
Yeah, I'd say at least 2/3 of the old friends end up dead in the show.
Yeah.
Definitely not good to be friends with Walker.
Yeah, doesn't pay. I mean, it's best to just roll the dice on your own. I mean, you'd think that him having your back and him being there to lend a swift kick when you need it would be good, but really the bad guys are just going to be gunning for you. Mm-hmm. You're going to be collateral damage.
I will also say that just looking at this episode and comparing the difference between an official case and how Walker acts and how the team acts in an official case as opposed to an unofficial case when they're just being targeted for something, it's exactly the same.
Yeah. We got another comment from Mr. Mike Rooney here.
Mike says, just finished choking my way through the first episode. This bodes well. Couple thoughts. First, you really missed an opportunity with the jettison comment in regards to Walker going to the poop deck. There's so many poop puns out there. I expected more out of you. I hope you step up your game as we go forward. Sound effects. Please tell me you keep the roulette sound effect. It was the funniest thing I heard all episode. Once again, not boding well for us. Yeah. Also, will you be ranking fights as you go? You know, so when I never watch an episode, I can go find the best overall Walker fight. Please advise. While we don't rate fights, we do keep track of how many roundhouse kicks, and I do think that, like, general roundhouse kicks are a pretty good
barometer.
Yeah.
Have you guys been hanging out at the Walker Facebook group?
I have not.
I've been on there a good amount, and there's always some good stuff. There's a guy, Ben Ninesling, who he's always posting up these posts of actors who have been on Walker and some insightful comments about him. And recently he put up Mitch Pileggi, who we were talking about. He's going to be Walker's dad on the new reboot. Apparently he was in the original show in an episode too. So I thought I'd just point that out there and give a shout out to Ben and thank him for his service in Walkerology on Facebook.
That's pretty good.
Those guys come up with a lot of interesting tidbits.
It's very active, and I love it. And the fact that there's always a Walker episode on TV means that there's always people commenting on it. There's actually some people in Europe who are asking, like, is anyone else in Europe watching Walker? And people are like, yeah. Very cool. I love it.
My friend used to watch Walker in Italy, and I guess they just called it Walko. And Walker's voice was incredibly deep. It was, like, super deep.
Walko.
Well, now that we've emptied the old inbox, we're ready for Walker to take on the Texas Nazis. Because that's a thing. If you're watching along at home and don't want any spoilers, hit pause and watch Season 6, Episode 22, Soul of Winter, and come back to us. Welcome back. Let's dig in, boys. This episode originally aired on April 25th, 1998, and is a prime example of Sons of Thunder era Walker Texas Ranger, with the inclusion of side characters Detective Carlos Sandoval, who takes a licking and keeps on ticking, and Walker's fellow karate kicker Trent Malloy. This episode revolves around Trent's pastor, Roscoe Jones, portrayed by Paul Winfield, who you may recognize as perhaps the only one in the movie The Terminator that can act. who leads an African-American church, which Trent's father, who we learned is named Thunder Malloy,
Yeah, pretty bad.
helped build. And I guess that's how they got the name Sons of Thunder, although Carlos wasn't raised by thunder, so I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to watch the show. But
Will we?
No, we don't. No, we're not going to do that.
Crazily enough, Ben Ninesling from the Facebook group posted up a post based around Paul Winfield. And this character, Roscoe Jones, who apparently is in multiple episodes of Walker, but portrayed by two different people.
Yeah, I think that's kind of indicative of maybe how disingenuous the racial messages are on the show, and that they're using two African-American actors to portray the same character. They just won't get the same guy back.
Paul Winfield, who plays him in this episode, Sarah and I were rewatching Batman, the animated series, and he voiced one of the characters in the one we just watched. He's the guy who actually invented the Batmobile for Batman and is Batman's mechanic.
Nice. All right.
What did we do before IMDb? How do we find out this information? I mean, it's like...
This all means something, right?
No, it doesn't mean anything.
Well, Terminator is my wife's favorite movie, so we've watched that movie a million times. So I'd recognize this guy right off the bat, because like I said, he really is the only guy in that movie that really can act.
And arguably in this episode too, but
yes,
we'll get
very
to
much
that.
So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this kicks off, and I wish I could say that it's the first time a Walker episode has started with Walker and his entire gang of Texas Ranger pals hanging out in a church with gospel singers in it. But this is the second episode we've seen with that, and it's a different church. So where do their loyalties lie? We don't know. They must go to 6 different services on Sunday.
Yeah, that was one thing I thought of. It's one thing to have them at a random thing, but if they go to these churches every week.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they probably have a podcast about which church has the best coffee.
Maybe. Although, honestly, as our friend Adam pointed out on Facebook, you don't want Walker showing up at your church because trouble's going to follow. And
it pretty much immediately does in this episode. I was kind of shocked.
It sure does. There's some nice gospel music going on, and everyone's kind of clapping in time except for Walker and Trent and Carlos.
CD is jamming out too. CD is feeling it so hard. It's great. It's good to see that emotion coming from him,
Yeah. The only thing they're not feeling is tempo or rhythm, I guess.
Oh, my, no. Yeah, they have no use for that.
Just amazing, yeah.
We learned that the pastor's son is showing up late. He was out with his friend passing out meals, I guess, and he's late for the choir performance. And so we think that the pastor's son, who's named Adam, is coming back. But just as we see a young African-American man coming back to the church,
kind of running precariously.
Yeah, he's running to get there on time. We see this seedy, clay-colored Ford van roll its window open, and there are a bunch of guys in khaki uniforms. One of them's got a rifle, and they shoot the guy.
Yeah.
And there's no secret that they're Nazis, because one of them's got a swastika prominently displayed on the back of his hand. He's very proud of that.
Right when they shoot the gun, is this the first flash to stock footage of Nazi paraphernalia that we see in this episode?
Oh my God! Yeah, this episode.
I don't remember if this is the first, but that was every third or fourth line in my notes was just Nazi footage. There was some really awful stuff.
I
really out of place.
Yeah, I think we need to preface this by saying that we often pose the question of whether or not an episode could air nowadays. This one, definitely not. You've got
not
these
on CBS. God, no.
I know. You've got these actors shouting out the N-word multiple times, and then you have these crazy flashback stock footage of Nazis, Hitler, and footage from concentration camps. It's awful.
It's one thing to do a flash to the Nazi flag. Okay, that's still insane. but they literally like did some flashes to like ovens, to pits of dead bodies. That all this looked like stuff from history books that they're kind of using for their Action Jackson TV show kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just like, it's disturbing and weird, and it's very difficult to believe that this was on a nationally syndicated TV show. Like, it's pretty crazy.
And it catches you off guard, too.
Yeah.
There's not to jump ahead, but there's a point later where the main protagonist here is kind of giving a speech or talking to his guys. In, like, the middle of his sentences, they'll just flash to this awful footage from concentration camps and then back to him.
Yeah.
The way that they use it, I don't get it. But you know what? It's effective because we're talking about it.
It truly is.
It's definitely striking a nerve. I'm giving that.
Yeah.
I think that first instance of it happened when they show the boy running to church because he's late. The van pulls up, and then a guy who looks like James Carville's son rolls down the window.
I said that too. The Raging Cajun.
Yeah. He's totally bald and rolls down the window and fires a rifle at him. And it's heard from inside of the church. And Walker's in there. Everybody's in there. They all rush out to see what happened.
They got him.
Yeah.
They killed the kid running across the field. What we don't find out right then, it's not clear that the kid that they killed is not their target and is not the son of the pastor. Because the son of the pastor was their target.
Everyone happens to be there, so Walker can pretty much start investigating this right away. You know, kind of like what Adam was saying from Facebook. They're literally there at the scene of the crime, and they pretty much just start investigating right off the bat. So is this really a case, or is this really just a case of being Walker's friend?
Mm-hmm.
So they start talking to Pastor Jones. This seems like a gang drive-by, is what Trevette says. And he asks Pastor Roscoe if they were affiliated with any gangs, just because, like, oh, well, obviously you're dealing with African Americans, so they're probably in some sort of gang. We got to get that off the plate right away. And so he says, oh, no, they were working late and really hard on the Meals on Wheels program.
Yeah. Do they think that they softened the blow by having Trevette ask that question?
I don't know.
So awful. I would not put it past them.
They were using Trevette to lay up the question. Yeah, like, oh, let's just rule out gang violence here because everyone's assuming it's gang violence. You know, that's what I took from that.
Yeah, the kind of mystery is set as to, you know, why would someone try to kill Rodney? And this is when Walker and Trevette are musing, well, maybe this is related to the recent rash of hate crimes. And that's when we first see our Texas Nazis in action here.
Mm.
And they call themselves the Sons of the Reich, and you know, if you're wondering where they meet in a brick building with a lovely, pristine plaque out front that says SOR on it. And
does it say like U.S. chapter or something too?
Yeah, yeah.
Say something else.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So, Adam, can you describe the inside of their lair?
Oh man, it's like a soundstage that was dressed with like stuff from a Knights of Columbus Hall, that kind of thing. And they have, all right, so this is kind of confusing for me. They have an alternate swastika is their logo, but they still have flags of actual swastikas up.
Yeah, this double representation. You know?
Why wouldn't they just choose one of them and just, they say, oh, we can't use an actual swastika on their shirt, but we can still have the flag. What's up with that?
It's pretty weird. I think one of the stranger things that they have hanging on the walls there, they've got, you know, this long red banner or whatever that has a swastika above it.
Mm-hmm.
And then just like sort of pasted onto it is, it's like someone went to Office Max or Kinko's or something and printed off like an 11 by 17 printout of a black and white photo of just Hitler's head. And they just like stuck it to this flag. I'm like, what? It's so weird. Why
it looks like they're doing a lot of arts and crafts there too. I mean, just in general, there's like, you know, little flags everywhere, and looks like they're making some T-shirts.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's the DIY chapter of the SOR.
Yeah, and they're talking, like two of the guys are talking, and behind them was like an artist easel with like a giant, like rectangular photograph of Adolf Hitler. Just like, oh, yep, And today we'll be talking about Adolf Hitler. It's like a lecture kind of thing.
I'd like to think that the actors were all quite uncomfortable on set.
They're pros. They're pros.
Yeah, unbelievable.
This is where we meet the leader of this group, the Sons of the Reich. We don't know his name yet, but he's basically blathering out. For those of you who watch Top Dog or listen to our episode on Top Dog, it's basically the same speech that the guy in Top Dog gives. And it's just as easy to tune out, which is great, useful.
Yeah.
He's got his cronies near him. He's got the one guy who looks like Carvel with his bald head and wacky teeth. And then another guy who looks like he's the brother of the Wizard, but the Nazi version of him.
Yeah.
He's got
amazing lightning, swastika-like lightning bolts shaved into the side of his head.
Yeah, it's pretty legit.
SS.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah. He's not trying to hide anything.
Oh my gosh. And he's the one that had the swastika on his hands and like a prison tattoo. He had like probably about 8 earrings in one of his ears, that kind of thing.
Yeah, a few of them have the swastikas on their hands, and I made a note here that when you see the swastikas like that are drawn on their hands, it's obviously it's not a tattoo, they're actors, but what they used was like some sort of shiny pencil, so it like reflects light back. It just looks like they just colored on some eyeliner on their hands.
They were into arts and crafts, so they definitely had the stuff there.
Once again, it's the Nazi arts and crafts. It's really catching on with them.
As we find out later, they do have merch.
Yeah, so getting to that, after their little rally there, they decide to recruit more people. They need to up their recruitment by 10%. So
they say literally the leader of these guys, and there's probably only about like 15 of these guys in the warehouse, right? The main guy, we don't know his name yet. The leader of these guys goes, "I need you to get out there and up our enrollment by 10%. You got to come back here with 1,000 more people."
Right.
And then you said the number 1,000. I'm thinking 1,000 people in this place? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But like then his little like lackey, the one with the stuff shaved into his head, was like, "All right, you heard him. Let's go."
He's like, "We can do it."
Yeah.
So yeah, they're really into that, and if you want to enlist able-bodied men to your white supremacist cause, where's the first place you go? Local high school.
Sadly, this is the most innocently awesome scene that you can appreciate in this episode. And it's Nazis standing outside a high school at the bottom of the steps, handing out flyers to all the teens there to join the ranks of the Reich. It was just outlandish. It was so outlandish.
So while they're doing that, the teacher's inside being a good teacher and calling the cops because that's sketchy AF. And so Carlos, he goes down there to try to break it up. And by the time he gets there, the Nazis have kind of instigated a bit of a fight with the pastor's son and the pastor's son's friend, who we maybe learn his name, but do we really care? He's kind of like the Bobby V of the high school.
He's like Trent Jr.
Yeah.
That's actually Trent's brother.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think, because when I looked it up later, he's got the same last name.
He looks familiar. Like, I think I've seen him in some other episodes, so.
That explains how we knew so much about the pastor and the church and all that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, regardless, it doesn't really matter.
We learned he's got a big mouth, is what happens.
He sure does. So he starts to get in a fight with the Nazis, but Carlos shows up just in time to break it up, and he tells the kids to go home, and he tells the Nazis to get out of there, or else he's going to arrest them for littering because they dropped some of the flyers.
Well, that's after they were like, "Oh, well, we're here legally. What are you going to arrest us for?" And the antagonizing from the lead white supremacist guy with the stuff shaved in his head was pretty awesome.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, he's pretty menacing.
He really laid it on thick.
So after they leave, Carlos picks up one of the flyers, and that thing looks professionally done. Like, this is 1998, those guys clearly have a pretty good software suite to put together a flyer like that. It's looking pretty good.
And it truly takes another graphic designer to find out where the stuff's made, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So he takes it to his number one computer wizard aficionado, Trevette. And so Trevette is, as we learn through the show, he's basically the only Texas Ranger with an internet connection. So, so he's tasked with basically looking up things like a website. And so he basically goes to the Sons of the Reich's website, which is pretty dope. It's almost as good as the Roundhouse Roulette website. Almost.
Yeah, except it's way more racist.
Oh, for sure. And Trevette describes it as your virtual supermarket of hate.
Yeah, I wrote that down too. Virtual cyber supermarket of hate. Oh, man, that was so good.
I actually took some screenshots of the website, and they are hilarious. But they're on my other computer. Let me go grab it because their mission statement, amazing.
Trevette's like the office IT guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, they sort of stop very briefly on these things, and this is the beauty of being able to watch a digital recording of the episode instead of just watching it live on TV.
It looked like the website was like a price list from what I didn't stop it or anything, but it looked like they were like hats, $22, stuff like that, right?
That's what they try to make it sound like, but that page there is a priced out list of apparently Hitler's speeches.
Oh, wow.
Did we see like an under construction animation with little guy?
Visitor counter.
You definitely expect there to be like a swastika counter at the bottom that's like 50 visitors.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first screen capture is of their mission statement here. It says the following: Sons of the Reich is not new. We're not a right-wing organization suddenly appearing on the scene, which is almost word for word what Trevette says. We just started this site in September, but Sons of the Reich has been around for a long time. Sons of the Reich is the ongoing work of Joseph the Christ, regathering his people, calling his people to a state of uniformity for their nation to bring in his kingdom. We hail his conquer. So they're into Joseph, okay? This is where it starts to get redonk. We believe in the preservation of our platform, individually and collectively, Ethernet and token ring, as a people as demanded and directed by Bill Gates. We believe our racial nation has a right and a left and is under obligation to preserve jelly preserves and itself and its members.
Wow, they stand for a lot.
Ethernet and token ring, those are like network protocols.
Right, and what do these people have against Bill Gates?
I mean, I don't know. They're like, it's getting near the bottom of the screen. It's going to be out of focus. You can just like write a bunch of random stuff.
Put in jelly preserves. That's funny.
Yeah.
And the Hitler speeches that are for sale are Mein Kampf, which is his book.
Right.
And then there's Sprechen Sie bitte langsam, which means please talk quiet, I think. And then they start just writing German gibberish, like Va ist der Flughafen, and Mein Kampf ist Naden Kampfvor, and then Eine kleine Nachtmusik, which is a movement by Mozart. And then something that I think they were trying to say that Walker is behind you, but they did it really poorly in German.
Well, so they even knew on their website that Walker was coming for him.
Yeah, pretty much. And that cost $20.
Or that was a message for Trevette, because when Trevette was reading it, Walker was behind him.
Also true.
So all the stuff Trevette says about the stuff that was actually on the website is like, oh, I guess they've only been around since September. I thought they were trying to make it sound like he was looking at the website and figuring out when it was registered and getting some official stuff. But he's just reading.
Like the screen didn't change when he found out stuff. It was kind of like, oh. And like, wait, dude, you didn't do anything on the screen. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
The leader of the Sons of the Reich, they list his name on the website, and that's how they find his name out. And his name is Stan Gorman. And then Walker's like, Trevette, can you look up everything you know on Stan Gorman? Oh, yeah. And he's like... and then the screen doesn't change, and he goes, "You're never going to believe this." With the same screen of their website, nothing changed. And he's like, "Yeah, he was actually in the service with Pastor Roscoe."
Dun,
It's true.
dun, dun.
It's true. I guess Roscoe's friend was the commander of Gorman in the army, and Gorman didn't like being bossed around by an African-American man, and he was insubordinate and was reprimanded for that and never forgot them. And apparently then, and this story is like very involved, and then years later, Gorman tried to shoot both the pastor and the pastor's friend, Gorman's former commander, in a movie theater parking lot. He shot both of them, but he did not kill Roscoe. But he's come back for Roscoe.
Yeah, he went to jail, but only for, 10 years or something like that, apparently, for killing people?
And Trevette's like, jail's not what it used to be.
Yeah, life isn't what it used to be. When the pastor hears that Gorman's involved, he immediately sends Trent and Carlos, the Sons of Thunder, to go pick up his son because he knows that his son Adam is in danger.
They're getting off school, and he's walking with, as we now know, Trent's brother, and they're walking down the street, and they're kind of like, "Oh yeah, I think she likes me." Is what the line was. They're like talking about stuff like that, and then immediately after that one throw-off line, the Nazi van from hell comes rolling down the street to confront him, and all the skinheads come out of the van and say, "You're not so tough now that you're on your own, right?" And immediately you're thinking, these kids have to know karate.
Oh, for sure.
And of course, Trent's brother starts throwing down some serious karate moves against the Nazi with the shaved lightning bolts in his head, and he's throwing down pretty hard. Meanwhile, the pastor's son Adam is pulled into the sketchy Nazi van by one of the creepers, and just then Trent and Carlos pull up.
Yeah, the two of them start laying down some serious hurt on those stupid Nazis. And while they're doing that, Trent's brother and the pastor's son Adam are able to escape from the back of the van and get to safety, which is pretty fortuitous.
The Nazi was a little distracted because he's like, "Oh, Trent and Carlos are kicking the crap out of all my friends. What's going on?" And then literally Trent's brother just sucker punches the guy, and they're both able to escape the van. So I was like, oh, that's good they weren't able to get the kids.
Mm-hmm.
How are you guys feeling about the sound effects during this fight?
Oh my gosh. It was like the same sound effect for every punch repeated over and over again. And the
one in the van was the best. He's there. He had maybe a foot to get a punch in. Like he didn't he didn't wind up or anything.
There was
just
no
hit the
wind
guy.
up.
And the sound effect was way louder.
Yeah.
They're not called the Sons of Thunder for nothing, man.
Yeah, I guess.
I will say, there were a bunch of altercations in this episode, but not a lot of fighting. But when they were fighting, they went overboard with the sound effects to make them count.
Yeah.
The Nazis pull guns and use the threat of fire to escape. And so all the Nazis are able to scramble into the van like some crazy clown car from hell.
Yeah, they started driving and they all are running up, jumping in one by one. It was like the Ninja Turtles or something like that. Like Shredder going off and the Foot Clan are coming in or something.
Yeah, that's when Walker's all like, can we get a warrant for this warehouse? Because we're pretty sure that's where Gorman's club is. We're pretty sure that he's involved with it.
Yeah, and this is pretty much the only point in which Alex, Walker's girlfriend, and the assistant district attorney has anything to do. And he's like, yeah, can you get us this warrant? And Alex is like, I don't know. I'm going to have to pull some favors with the judge. And Walker's kind of like, oh, you know how to do it. And she's like, oh, behave.
Yuck.
Right. Well, they don't mention anything about probable cause or anything else. But in reality, two cops just basically pulled up, saw the van. They could have gotten the vehicle's license plate number. Yeah. Or the fact that all of the guys who tried to kidnap were wearing the Sons of the Reich's uniform. Every act of terror in this episode done by the Sons of the Reich
is branded.
They own up to it because they're all wearing their uniform. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And Trent and was it Trent and Carlos that were both at the school?
It was just Carlos, but he should have recognized his voice. Suffice it to say, Alex should not have to pull any favors to get this warrant. It's pretty obvious who's responsible for the recent attacks here.
Yeah, but regardless, she's able to get it because she pulls some sketchy favor with the judge that, thank God, takes place off screen. Walker, Trevette, and a few other extraneous cops and rangers show up to the Nazi headquarters. And what happens?
Very little.
We're expecting a shakedown, right?
Yeah.
This is when you expect to get some information. Definitely a fight.
Right. Maybe one punch to the gut as a threat or something.
Instead, the lead white supremacist, Stan Gorman, he says, "Let me see your warrant." And Walker pulls it out, and then he reads it. He's like,
"This seems to be in order."
He's like, "Don't give these boys any reason to use their itchy trigger fingers, guys." That's what he says.
Yeah. So the Nazis just kind of stand there as the Texas Rangers do the least thorough search of anything. They basically just look at like a couple of the surfaces and say, "Yeah, there's nothing here."
They just wander around, kind of take a peek, and
and we got to bring up one of the best parts of this episode. It's really terrible, but they actually, the set designer for this episode was like, all right, so we're designing this Nazi kind of like headquarters. We got to have a computer there, and, you know, I guess they would have a swastika screensaver, right? So, of course, they're walking around, and I think it was Carlos pokes over at one of the computers, and there's, like, literally a swastika screensaver, like, flashing back and forth, that you know that they had to, like, do multiple takes because they're like, oh, somebody hit the mouse. We got to wait another 15 minutes.
Well, you know, they do mention Bill Gates in their propaganda, so it's possible that's just a Microsoft computer, and it was just standard at the time.
Do you think that came stock?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh!
It's definitely one of the most minute examples of like attention to detail on the prop master's part.
Yeah.
Also, totally unnecessary.
But they executed it well, and there are some times, like in Walker episodes, where they're looking at a newspaper, and you literally see the actor's face pasted onto the newspaper. It's raised. They didn't even take the effort to like print it out or anything. So props to them for this one. But so this comes to this next thing we were talking about, Bob. Like Carlos, he's the one that witnessed them handing out flyers at the school. So Walker's like, "Hey, Carlos, do you recognize anybody here?"
He looks at one of the guys that was definitely there. Because, well, at least the camera looks at one of the guys.
Yeah.
And he looks around the room and basically just goes, "Nah, none of them are here." So you were in these guys' face.
Right.
Like they were like yelling right at you. You saw them up close.
Right. You were accosted by a man with SS shaved into the sides of his head with the most like distinctive earrings ever.
Yeah, Carlos really messed up here. But my favorite part was they show Carlos like looking people over, and they show like him look at the guy that you know he saw before. But then immediately after, they cut to two other guys who are completely bald. So essentially,
they kind of look the same. Right?
They're implying that everybody who is like has a bald head looks exactly the same.
Right. Sure.
So after that bust, it's a bust of a bust, and so the cops leave. And right after they leave, Gorman's like, "No, we're not going to back down. Our operation for tonight is still on. If Walker wants a war, we'll give him one he can't win," which seems very vague and don't really understand what they're talking about. But I guess what they're talking about is essentially just burning down a church. So they pull up to a church.
A different church.
Yeah, for some reason a different church.
So they could build up a completely flat front of a church and burn it down.
Yeah, well, you know that there are people in the church because there's like stock music of gospel singing.
Yeah.
So they throw like Molotov cocktails through the windows. Once again, they're wearing their full SOR regalia.
I mean, they're in their work uniform.
Right. So if anyone sees them, they're in the same van too. Yeah. So if anyone sees them, you know exactly who did it. But they burn the church down and fly off in their van.
Yeah. So this is again, pretty terrible. The church just immediately goes up in flames, and they flash to the congregation filing through the fire through the front door, and they pan to this old white guy, and he's like, is the sound effect, and then he steps on a pair of glasses as he goes down like the steps, but they aren't his glasses, which would have been more.
Yeah, I didn't get that either, because they showed someone else dropping those glasses, and then they like zoom in on the glasses. A couple seconds later, someone steps on those glasses.
Yeah.
And that's it. What the hell was the point of the glasses?
I think it was a really bold artistic move by the director.
So that's what I'm thinking. Maybe there's some metaphor there that we're too simple to understand.
We're too daft. We don't figure it out.
Yeah. And you can tell that the church is literally like made of 2x4s just so they could burn it down, because there are a few shots where you see the flames come around the side, you know. So good, but devastating for the plot.
For sure.
Pastor Roscoe Jones visits the pastor of the church that just got burnt down. And he says, man, we're going to support you guys. This is terrible, but we're going to help you rebuild your church. And in the meantime, you can come to our congregation and worship with us. And that pastor's like, man, you guys don't have the resources for that. And a lot of our congregation, they don't have cars. And he's like, don't worry about it. We'll come pick you up and drop you off afterwards, and everything's going to be fine.
Honestly, a genuinely nice moment in the episode.
Yep. And he said, we may not have a lot of money, but we've got friends, and sometimes that's all you need.
And so then it cuts to inside the Texas Rangers headquarters. You know, they're like, oh, we got to help out with this charity event. And
it actually cuts to CDs. This is all done in CDs. This is the only time we're at CDs.
Yeah. CDs Bar and Grill.
Yeah.
Which I immediately was just like, it's been a while.
It's been a while. We haven't seen CDs in a long time. Maybe they hang out in there more in the later episodes. But,
yeah, because we haven't been there a lot. But yeah, so this whole kind of like plotting of how the Rangers are going to help out takes place in CD's bar. Alex plots the bus route.
Yeah, she's like, so I got some friends who have some buses so you can get all the people from the congregation there. Yeah. And Trevette's like, I just downloaded a new graphics package from my, ridiculous computer with the internet connection.
And this
so
blew my mind that he is
flyer.
Also a graphic designer.
Of course. Well, that just means that he can click like word art and change the color on it.
I don't know, man, but I'm assuming he designed the poster that they hang up for the event, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then CD offers to brew up an extra large batch of his famous chili. Then Walker's like, I can top all you guys. I got the headliner for the show. And we learned that Walker's friends with country music extraordinaire, I guess in 1998. I don't know. Collin Raye.
Yeah.
And I think Collin Raye right now, if we can find him, he's probably in Nashville. You got to get him at him.
I was going to bring this up. My boss, her best friend, wrote one of his songs, his hit songs. And one of my friend's father produced the track that is used in this episode.
Ooh.
Okay. So I think we should get him in.
6 degrees of separation.
Yeah,
huh?
a lot of degrees of separation, but Collin Raye, man, I'm just saying. And Sarah knew the song that was in the episode. This was a legitimate hit at the time.
Well, this is prime Walker. I mean, This is when Walker had its own spin-off. I mean, this is peak popularity of Walker.
You get
Texas
a placement.
Ranger.
I'm sure this wasn't the episode he wanted to get placed in, but it was pretty interesting. I was like, what a juxtaposition. But anyway, Walker's like, I'm calling in my friend, 90s country superstar Collin Raye, and he's going to play. And they have some kind of interesting meeting between Walker and Pastor Roscoe Jones and Collin Raye. His tour bus kind of pulls up to the front of the church, and he's like, I'm just glad to be able to help, that kind of thing. And he does a nice kind of beef heart grin.
Of course. It's America's grin.
It was America's grin. Yeah. And then kind of like forebodingly, the pastor's like, well, with friends like this, what's going to stop us?
Yeah, don't say stuff like that.
And every single person is like, the freaking Nazis.
Maybe it's the group of Nazis that's trying to kill you.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so then we cut to Gorman, who tells some of his cronies, it's time to up the ante. Go to the farm. Get the C4.
Yeah. You go get a couple of pounds of C4.
Yeah. This is just the writer's go-to. They're like, C4, that's pretty basic. We got it.
Yep. So now we know that they're brewing something real crazy. And instead of a patented Walker shakedown, we've got a Gorman shakedown. And Gorman actually visits pastor's church.
Reverse shakedown.
Yeah. And basically challenges him on the whole turn the other cheek thing by slapping him, giving him a couple sucker slaps in the face, threatening him. And then right after they leave, they blow up some cars in the parking lot.
Yeah, like 35% of the cars in the parking lot just randomly chosen.
Yeah. Well, they got
all the oldest, cheapest cars.
Exactly. They just happened to be all the cars that were in back of all the nice cars, and they were definitely all rusted out.
Right. Well, they got 3 pounds of C4, and they blew up 3 cars. So, that's the 1 pound per car conversion in C4.
Yeah.
We're learning so much from this show.
And we got the explosion quotient checked off for this episode. So
for sure. I counted that as 3 explosions because they had to set up 3 bombs. Once again, I feel like in a court of law, they'd be convicted for that.
Just for that. I was thinking that too. Yeah.
So, right after this is when at Ranger HQ, Walker gets the word that the governor has basically said, we need you on this. And Walker says, all right, looks like this is going to be an all-nighter. Everybody get to work. I'll go make the coffee.
It's going to be a late one.
It's like, you guys don't have an assistant or someone who can make the coffee?
And at this point, Walker has probably said 3 lines the whole episode.
Yeah.
Almost 3/4 of the way through it.
They're digging around to get stuff to get a warrant again, right?
Yeah, I mean, to this point...
They need another warrant. And it's like, this is funny because in a lot of these old... cop shows in general, they can easily get a warrant for nothing.
Yeah.
But on this episode, for some reason, they have a really hard time.
Yeah, it's also weird to me that right now, 3/4 of the way through the episode, the governor's putting Walker in charge of the investigation because they've already gotten a warrant, served a warrant, and done a bunch of other investigation. How are they not already in charge of the, of the investigation?
Right.
I
just assumed they were.
But it's official, and the team gets together, and Alex starts drawing up warrants in case they find something. And Trevette, he starts the old hamster-run computer, crunching numbers, trying to look at recent purchases of property for some of the people in the prison who got out of prison with Gorman, which nowadays you could type 2 things into a box and it would return the results to you immediately. But we need to respect the fact that computer searches took a long time in 1998.
We had to use Alta Vista, too.
Yeah, maybe.
Google.
Yeah.
So
he may have asked Jeeves, too. I don't know.
He might have.
Trevette's probably still working on that Paint Shop Pro Master Blaster pack he purchased for this poster.
So they're running these searches, and all the while...
preparations are being made for the event, which is a benefit to rebuild the church that these white supremacists burnt down.
Yes, exactly. And in blatant juxtaposition, we go back to the Sons of the Reich's headquarters.
Creepy warehouse.
Yep, and they decide to go forward with a call to arms which cannot be ignored.
Yeah.
After which they decide that they're going to build a cross to burn. So you get these skeezy guys in uniforms building this cross, and it's being supported by these cheap chairs while they're building it. Mm-hmm. And Gorman comes down and he's like,
"That's not how you do it. There's nothing worse than a cross that fizzles out. Read the manual." And then he plops down this manual, and it sounds like book hitting right on the cross. He says, "If you do it right, it'll take a hurricane to blow out the flames." And this is actually some pretty good plot leading there with that line.
Oh, yeah. Serious foreshadowing. Yeah, I just thought it's interesting that they're once again going to their Nazi arts and crafts here.
I thought it was interesting they had a manual on how to build a cross. Because that was thick. You know. It was like telephone book thick.
It's something that they're selling on the website.
That's their merch. This is before Amazon. And to ship that themselves.
Oh, my gosh. The skeezy guy with the S's buzzed into his head was like, "Man, if we don't make a big move now, they already know that we threatened them. And if we don't make a big move, it's just going to make us look bad." So they're pretty much like, "Yeah, a crucifixion is in order."
At which point I'm wondering, are they actually going to crucify someone on the show? The show's already gone way over the line with people shouting racial slurs and horrifying imagery and all this stuff. I'm like, they're not going to crucify someone on national TV, are they?
Yeah, so they're building that cross.
And then the next morning, after staying up all night working to get the warrant,
Right.
They didn't get any hard evidence or anything. They just somehow got the warrant.
Yeah, they found a farm that I think they said was 70 miles outside of the city. And they're like, it's got to be right in the city somewhere.
While we're at it here, it was nighttime, okay? They were waiting for the warrant. Walker's making coffee. They send Alex to the judge to work her magic. It's morning. Now they have the warrant.
This is the second time that she's worked her magic, too, by the way. They already had to get one more.
Yeah.
So,
and it literally switched the morning by the time they had it.
I think you guys are drawing way too many conclusions here. I think the conclusion is that the shooting finished and then they had to shoot more scenes and it was just poor editing.
Well, they should think about the consequences of
tomato.
Yeah. I'm just saying that, they're really painting Alex as somebody who's willing to go the extra mile.
I think that your imagination is far more active than a Nazi with an instruction book.
Well, they're just more paint by numbers, and I'm more paint by...
happy little trees.
Yeah, so anyway, she finally gets the warrant, and then it flashes to morning, and Walker and Carlos and Trevette are on this farm that's like 80 miles out of town. It's kind of sparse, and Carlos goes, "Hail Hitler!" And then, like, immediately one of the troops salutes, and then he busts him in the face.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
And then it flashes to Walker, who's waiting on the other side of the barn, and one of the Nazis is walking up the other side, and Walker swings his fist right around the corner and just knocks the guy out instantly with an excellent sound effect.
Huge sound effect. It's a good one.
That alone was awesome. Then Trevette takes out one of the Nazis and grabs his like semi-automatic gun, right? And this is all outside of the barn. And they're kind of like, man, there's not a lot of people here, but there's still some people inside. So they go inside, and Trevette gets up on top of like a bunch of hay bales or something and peeks down at all these like white supremacists playing cards and says, "Texas Rangers." And they all look up like, "Oh!" And then Walker busts in the back door, and then Carlos comes in the other side. Both Carlos and Walker have pea shooters. And Trevette has like maybe like a retro assault rifle.
Yeah.
All the other guys, like 8 other guys, have Uzis down there. Who's outgunned?
Apparently the 8 other guys.
Yeah,
because they just drop it. And that was pretty disappointing too, because it's like, okay, they're sneaking in, they're beating up guys as they go, and then they come to everyone's in the same room, and then they just give up.
Yeah, right. And then it kind of fades. Like I was like, oh, they're gonna fight, but literally where there would be a fight, it crossfades into them like kind of like interrogating or something.
Barely, yeah. Then they pull out this like looks like a guitar case, and it's got like a 30-06 rifle in it, and they immediately go, "You think this is the one that killed the kid? It's the same caliber."
In the middle of that, they shoot to a flashback of the same episode of the kid getting shot, but except they overlaid a red filter on the footage.
Right.
But then
it's like we have the gun, and it's like, all right, stay on target here, stay focused.
Yeah,
it's classic Walker detective work. It's hunches and punches. There's very little hard evidence.
But this scene was disappointing because it built up, and then we kind of didn't really get anywhere.
Yeah.
Even one of the guys that was sitting around the table that like immediately surrendered, he was like this gigantic dude with like a Confederate flag shirt on.
Yeah, like a vintage tee.
How could they not have like a showdown with that dude?
Opportunity missed.
And can we talk about Carlos's hair? His hairspray technique is on point. It doesn't move. And it's like a wildebeest.
You got to keep in mind, he's partners with Trent, and Trent's hair is like on point, like literally at all times. So, if you're partnered with Trent and always in the same car as him, your hair game, you got to step it up a bit.
Yeah, you're going to pick it up just by being near the other guy.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
It's like it rubs off.
So after the bust, we cut back to the event, and they think that everything's in the clear. They busted this arms supply. Things are looking pretty good. So
the concert's going on now, right?
Yeah, the Texas Rangers, they decide to let it loose a little bit. And Collin Raye, he's busting out some sick jams, and it really illustrates the cast's inability to dance.
Yeah, he's jamming on his track, which was a hit at the time, Little Red Rodeo, which apparently was a car. I didn't know that it was a type of car, but it actually hit number 3 on the U.S. Hot Country Songs Billboard chart in 1997. So he's jamming on the song, and the first thing I thought was, Collin Raye, he's good at what he's doing. He's doing the 90s country kind of thing. And Walker, he pulled in the favor to bring in Collin Raye to bring some 90s country to this all-black African-American church. The moment that guy started opening his mouth, people are going to be exiting that tent instantaneously, right?
I would hope so, yeah. I mean, there's a handful of white people there. But yeah, there were a lot of black folk really enjoying that music, and I find that hard to believe.
I mean, to their credit,
They have
they
better taste.
paid $1 whole to get in, so...
Yeah.
Good point, yeah.
The dancing juxtaposition between Pastor Roscoe and Trent was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's pretty
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Pastor
That was-
Roscoe, actually, his acting skills of pretending to enjoy that music was excellent. Trent, his dance moves were like Elaine.
Yeah, it felt a little forced. His rhythm was less than stellar, too.
Yeah.
Painful to watch.
It was
Clapping in one
Although,
and three.
honestly, CD has the old man dance down.
And he's serving the chili, so he put a bunch of like PCP, LSD in that. So he's kind of like Ken Casey
Yeah.
with chili.
CD
Everyone's all
spiked the
jazzed
chili.
Around that point, Pastor Roscoe and Trent are jamming out to the country jams, and they see the flap of the back tent is open. They're like,
There's like a strange glow happening outside the tent. Pastor's like, oh, what could that be? And Trent's like, oh, it's probably nothing. And maybe the best line in the show, the pastor's like, yeah, there's a whole lot of that going around lately.
exactly. He's the most self-aware character in this show. He's like, yeah, likely. So they go outside the tent to be greeted by these Nazis standing in front of a burning cross on the lawn of their church. And you're just like, wow.
Striking imagery.
Yeah. I can't believe that. Oh my gosh.
Once again, they've got an airtight excuse. They say that they were driving by and couldn't happen but see the large burning cross, and they stopped to check it out.
Yeah, the way the guy says that too is such a shithead way to say it, but the way he said it was so funny. We just happened to be driving by and saw this cross.
I wonder who could have done it.
It's like,
Something
oh
like
my god. Yeah, so pretty much everyone from the concert except Collin Raye, who probably went back to his tour bus and says, I'm getting the hell out of here.
Good call.
As you should.
Good call, man.
Can you blame him?
No. Yeah, I mean, he played. They sold the tickets. That's what he was there for. So
It's like, I did
he
not
doesn't
sign
want that
on for
kinda-
this. I did not sign on for this.
Yeah, he does not want that kind of publicity.
no.
A cross burning broke out at a Collin Raye concert. Yikes.
So pretty much everyone from inside the tent comes out, and they're like standing off against the Nazis. And at this point, I couldn't help but thinking, like, wow, this whole episode is based around nonviolent protest and everything that our country is going through with nonviolent protests right now, and how Representative John Lewis passed away this week, who was one of the main 5 civil rights leaders who led a lot of the protests, even in Nashville.
You remember, Adam, he spoke at our commencement?
Are you serious?
Yeah, he was a speaker at our graduation from college from UML.
Wow.
No way.
Yeah, man, he was. I remember it. And he was friends with Marty Meehan, because they were both in the house.
Wow. That's
That
insane.
was Marty Meehan's first year, yeah. Not to get off topic, but it's sort of on topic.
I probably forgot
Sure.
it because we went to Fury's afterwards.
Right, we erased it with...
But yeah, man, just really amazing, powerful stuff happening. And just to see like Walker, Texas Ranger really deal with the same thing in such a ham-handed way, it's just all the more heartbreaking this week.
Right.
Yeah.
So, long story short, it seems like the end game of these Nazis is to get this pastor to crack in front of his congregation.
Yeah, and to throw a punch.
Right, but before anyone has a chance to see how anything's going to go, CD says, well, I'm with the Lord, but I'm going to go get backup.
And everyone else stays. And at which point we have a show-off between Gorman, the lead white supremacist, and Pastor Roscoe Jones, who he's been trying to get to break his code of nonviolence the whole episode. And again, Gorman throws a punch at Pastor Roscoe, and he tries to do it a second time, and Pastor Roscoe stops the punch in an awkward fashion and pushes it down. And then he pulls his fist up in the air and says, "I so badly want to." And then Gorman's like, "But then you be a hypocrite." And then Pastor Roscoe pulls his hand down and says,
"Any pain I distribute to you pales in comparison to what the Lord has in store for you."
So at that moment, we know that the pastor stood his ground in the face of even death from the Nazis to not throw a punch, and he was going to keep his nonviolent protest going. Then all the Nazis pulled their guns, and you're like, these people are going to get mowed down.
Yeah. Now, I will say the Nazis really escalated quite quickly, because before this episode happened, they really hadn't done much. They just sort of spray painted stuff around. And in like the course of a few days, they've gone from doing like vandalism to mass murder. It's very strange.
Yeah, when they're getting ready to attack the crowd, someone does say, "Let's split some skulls."
Yeah, that was insane.
Right as they're about to start shooting him, flying jump kick comes in from Walker.
Yeah. What ensues is a quick but pretty awesome fight sequence with every main character doling out some pretty sick punches and kicks.
Even Alex gets into the fray and takes the dude out.
Yeah, almost as a joke, she kind of walks up at the end, and there's one straggling like Nazi, and she just lays a punch on him and then keeps walking. It was pretty badass.
It's Texas justice right there.
It was kind of quick, and Walker, again, only had like one or two kicks because they had so many other people there to fight. Carlos was there, Trent was there. They even had the little kids fighting, too. It was effective, a lot of sound effects, but it was over pretty quick. And we're left with all the Nazis on the ground, the African-American church congregation standing in front of a burning cross. They all fall to their knees. They start praying. And what happens next is another prime example of divine intervention.
Well, yeah, so the pastors kneel and begin silently praying, and all of a sudden, a mighty wind picks up. And you know that the wind picks up because they had stock footage of a pine tree at night blowing in the wind.
And wind chimes.
Yeah, wind chimes and then some really, some pretty intense sound effects. And we are led to believe that their prayer has caused the wind to pick up substantially enough such that it blows out the cross. Everyone standing by watches it happen. And Trevette is just as amazed as anyone else. Mm-hmm. He turns to Walker and says, "Walker, it's impossible. How'd that happen?" And Walker says, "You asked the wrong person." Then there's a really awkward shot of the steeple with the cross on it.
And then kind of like outer space unfolds into it somehow.
Yeah, no, then they use like some weird filter to accentuate the cross on the steeple. And then like this fake cloud comes in and a fake star.
I think they're trying to say that like when they got down on their knees to pray and the wind came, that it was cloudy maybe. And then that was part of the wind storm.
Okay. Maybe.
And then that final shot was because it kind of looked like the clouds were clearing and you see this terrible looking star and then we fade to black.
Okay.
That was my take on it.
Yeah, that makes more sense than like the divine manifesting itself in a giant fake star.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be that too.
It could also be that, yeah.
That doesn't sound unbelievable.
Yeah. But it really just shows how good the writers were that they put the line in there. If you don't do it right, it'll take a hurricane to blow out the flames. Not just a hurricane, the breath of God blowing that down.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And one thing I've learned in Cub Scouts and whatnot, pretty sure fire is not put out by wind.
Also true.
A match can be put out by wind.
Yeah.
But an actual burning fire, if you blow wind into it, it gets hotter and worse.
Well, that about sums up the episode. We'd like to give a shout out to our friend and collaborator, Adam Lauritsen, who's been crafting the amazing weekly Walkerstrations on our social media feeds. Be sure to check out his other art on Instagram at @ImaginationRunAmuck. When we come back, it'll be time for us to each rate Soul of Winter on a scale of 0 to 10 boots to the face, resulting in our patented Roundhouse Roulette episode ranking, complete results of which are available on our website, roundhouseroulette.com. Don't go away. Oh, welcome back. Here's the time for us to really say what we think about this episode. I guess I'll volunteer to go first this week.
Please.
Yeah. We're dealing with a lot of episodes that deal with race right now, and we're really in a pivotal point in time culturally and politically in the country right now, and it's really bringing a lot of these issues right to the forefront. And I think episodes of television like this really illustrate, I guess, that we have made some progress, but there's still a lot of progress to go. But to think that this episode aired, just over 20 years ago on TV is frightening.
Yeah.
And in all the episodes that we've dealt with race so far, I've definitely been sort of the most uncomfortable watching this one. Maybe that's because they're throwing the N-word around. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. But also, it's just, I don't know, it's just so poorly done and poorly dealt with. I wasn't super impressed by this one. I would give it a 4.
Wow. Well,
there were some okay fights, but the okay fights didn't really have Walker in them. Walker didn't feature very strongly in this at all. I did think that the late 90s cameo of a country music star was pretty classic.
Yeah.
And I thought that some of the acting was really great, but overall, it's a really clunky episode. How about you, Bob?
Yeah. Yeah, right?
Not to bring it down or anything, but...
No. It's like when I saw that we were going to be watching this, I was excited. And as I'm watching it, I was still kind of excited. And as the episode went on, I kind of felt the same way. I was just like, man, Walker didn't really do much. The sound effects were great. I actually thought the bad guy was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice his like weird eye twitch that he did?
Dude, he's one of the best bad guys in the series.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. But yeah, I think there was a little more bad than good. I put myself as a 5. I feel like this is like straight up middle of the road. Like there's plenty of bad stuff, but there's some good things too.
Yep.
Yeah, it didn't do as much for me as I'd hoped.
Let's just kind of break this down here. Walker kicks the crap out of white supremacists in this episode.
Check.
I mean, that's the surface level.
But he doesn't, though.
Yeah, that's part of the problem.
He does at the end.
He gets like 2 people. And we don't even see what happens to the main leader.
The fight was really awkward, too, because it was really obvious that he had a double. And that it was obvious that Trent did not have a double.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was one of the things I noticed in that only fight scene.
Look, we didn't have a lot of Walker action in this, but whenever you're punching white supremacists, it's a good thing, right? It can't be a bad thing. How could you execute that in a wrong way?
Right. No, that's true. That's true.
At the end of the day, they're saying white supremacy is bad. Period. The way they went about saying it might have been messed up. Yeah. But that was their intent, I believe, right? So I'm giving this episode a 10. And then I'm subtracting a point for every N-word, which were 3. And I'm going 7 on this one.
Were there really only 3?
I only remember 1 offhand.
The kid says it
there
once.
There were at least 3 and maybe 4. I'm not going back to listen. But.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch it again.
Oh, and then there was the whole thing where the guy's like, just what we need, like chocolate and vanilla bonding.
All right,
6.
Everyone's going to end up looking like Mexicans. It's like, what?
All right, 5.
What? How is this on?
They're trying to show they're actual bad guys, but they're actually not really helping the point of the episode. That's the problem with this one. They were like,
right.
It seemed like this episode did more to ingrain racism than battle it.
Right.
Which might explain why the pastor didn't come back to reprise his role in future episodes.
Probably.
Yeah.
They called the pastor out for saying that he was the savior.
Which he didn't say.
And then there was that whole awkward thing where...
Yeah, Trent kind of was like, oh yeah, I'm going to inspire you as a hot, blonde-haired, blue-eyed karate master. I'm going to white-splain to you why you should lead our church that my dad built.
Right.
And you're lucky to be part of.
Do you really think this bad guy's the best? He didn't really leave a big impression on me. And not only that, he just went down
he
like
didn't fight.
Right, he doesn't do karate. He's not like totally off the chains.
Though.
Yeah, exactly. Though. He didn't need to do anything.
That eye twitch was enough.
He had an off way about him that was so good.
I think it was one of the scenes where it's like him, eye twitch, cut to a concentration camp clip, back to him, eye twitch.
Yeah.
And I was like, the concentration clip I could do without, but the eye twitch sold me on the back.
Yeah, maybe the crap. All right, I'm going to go 6 on this one.
Yeah, because it was like
That's fair.
All right,
hard to
6,
watch.
6 is it. I mean, yeah. But at the same time, I remember like us choosing this for the original Roundhouse Wheel, and we're like, oh, Walker kicking the crap out of Nazis? Heck yes, we'll take it.
Exactly.
The problem with it is, the way they go about it in kind of like cementing that, oh yeah, these are actually white supremacists, if you couldn't tell because of all the swastikas and shaved heads. Oh yeah, we'll have them do some really awful stuff. And also, if that's not enough for you, we're going to cut back and forth between actual photos of the Holocaust. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like way over the top.
Yeah. So
at first because I remember the first one of those scenes was some Nazi palace in Berlin. It's a really iconic photo of the huge swastika falling off the building, being like blown off the building. And it's a historical, like iconic image. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa, that's heavy.
Yeah.
And I was like, if they just did that,
it would have been
that
enough.
one part, it would have been like, okay, that's heavy. But when they kept going back, it was like
to worse.
Every time they
images.
did it, it got more and more uncomfortable.
Worse and worse.
This is awful.
They literally send Nazis to a high school to hand out flyers. I mean, that's pretty awesome.
It's pretty apropos, too, because they're like, well, it's freedom of speech. And you're like, okay, they know their constitutional rights really well. So there's that.
Yeah. Well, we got you for littering. So, yeah. Ah, man. Yeah, this one's so tough because I was really hoping that it would be good. It's so outlandish.
I mean, there's definitely potential there. Like, remove the weird footage from concentration camps. Don't have people lean that much into the role of being racist, crazy-ass white supremacists. And have Walker do more butt kicking, and they didn't really do any of that.
This is the hardest one for me to rate out of all of them.
That's fair.
I watched it twice.
That's a weird episode.
I'm going 6.
So that gives this episode a roundhouse rating of 5 boots to the face. And I think it's safe to say we all enjoyed seeing Walker swiftly deliver his boot to the deserving face of white supremacist leader Stan Gorman. But was Walker, Texas Ranger the proper venue to preach peace through nonviolence? Let us know what you think on social media or by emailing us at roundhouseroulette@gmail.com. When we come back, we'll be spinning the Roundhouse Roulette wheel to select next week's episode. And we're back. Bob, you ready to spin that wheel? Let's hope it's not another episode dealing with race.
Oh, man.
I think we're due for one that doesn't. Let me grab this.
Oh, man. I forgot about this wheel.
Wow. Season 5, Episode 18, Devil's Turf.
That's nice. Going back one season.
At least this is going to be pure blasphemy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hear the word turf, and all I can think of in the context of Walker is...
You think we're going down another one of these rabbit holes?
I think we're going to be dealing with gang violence in this one, unfortunately.
Devil's Turf. Walker goes undercover as a substitute teacher to bust the psycho who is selling a lethal combination of drugs to the students.
Yes.
Oh,
super drug
combination.
Jackpot.
Super drug. We were due for this.
Super drug substitute.
Well, let's not get excited, though, guys.
We know how fast this can turn.
All right, we hope you'll join us next week when we share our reactions to Season 5, Episode 18, Devil's Turf. Share your opinions with us on Facebook and Instagram at Roundhouse Roulette and on Twitter at Roundhouse Pod. And feel free to rate and review us on iTunes or wherever you get your fine podcasts. Until next week,
may the eyes of the Ranger be upon you.
When you're in Texas, look behind you. Oh, 'cause that's where the Ranger's gonna be.